Hey, welcome everybody to another Mohawk Forex live stream. Well, today we'll be tackling in the next 10 minutes the CPI inflation print from the US, followed then by the New York Open, and then we've got the business optimism report, IBD, to trade about 30 minutes after the New York Open. So thank you for joining and welcome again. 3-minute time frame as always of our chart and our boutique axe trading system. And all the information is on our website www.mohawkforex.com for anyone who wants to join the team and gain access to this trading system and the mentorship program, etc. Information is all in the YouTube channel below as usual. So give me a thumbs up obviously as we progress with our live stream and see what we can do. And today was a weird day because we had a really good session the first kind of 20 minutes into London. I missed the Frankfurt and actually New Open due to me having no water which got turned back on luckily, and I kind of came into the charts thinking I'd missed the trades and there was nothing happening, and in the end actually I bagged about 25-30 trades with 3 or 4 losses and was back up to speed as if I traded the Open. So it doesn't always happen like that. But that was purely the setups were there right in front of me. I just jumped in and in 24 minutes I was done. So, and that's the whole art of scalping. So let's have a quick look at what we have got. So I'm just going to load up broker to on IC markets, which is our chosen broker we use for scalping. The leverage is 1 to 200, and we've been trading a £3,000 account since Monday. So we're 2 days in, so we're in good profit. I don't change my lot sizes. Like I say, once I get above 1,000 on my trading account, I tend to stick even right up to 10-20,000 trading account. I keep lot sizes the same. That's the crucial thing. I tell my team, don't get greedy, don't get carried away, and build up to that kind of level that I'm on and then sit on it and then just practice. So yeah, we're looking at US 30 at the moment. Let's have a quick on my FX book, and you can see we've got about 7 minutes to go. Now, because of how things are at the moment, we're not going to jump straight in unless we see a move. I want to see the move first. So we're going to have a little bit of a delay from what we usually do. Usually we'll see the result, worse than expected, better than expected, or as expected. Could be the case. And then we'll enter the trades. On this one, we're going to just hang fire and see, because of obviously what's happening. The economic calendar really has taken a back seat. Obviously the war in Russia, Ukraine. So we're just a bit more cautious with entering news. But the high impact news like the ZEW print there for Germany, and like I say, the inflation news and things like NFP still move the markets. I'm steering clear of gold today. Gold has actually smoothed out a little bit last couple of days, but overall it's been extremely volatile and not safe to trade via the economic calendar like we usually do. So we're looking at US 30 moment. It's been on a bull run right from kind of to a drop in the Asian session, and basically trying to recoup all the losses from the Asian session. You can see end of New York session yesterday, in Asian session down, but a consolidation at the bottom of our neutral support, pushes back up for London, and here's where we are on the chart of the CPI news. So my arrow could be anywhere, we don't know. Could be a drop. RSI is looking to drop now, but again, that's no indication of the upcoming trend. We'll just jump in on the move if we see a move. But obviously, if it's a buy and it's right against our resistance zone here in blue, then obviously we'll be very cautious, because we'll usually get a bounce off that, wait for a break on that zone. You can see our green dotted line is our actual breakout zone. So we've got to be careful of that. And then on NAS, those who like to trade NAS as well, which you can do on inflation news as well, same scenario. It's pulling back, losses in Asian session, gains in the London session, and it's looking to retest. Could have a double top even before it retests our neutral support. Could have a little retest and it pushes back up a full Again, we'll follow the RSI and see what direction we get. And again, I'm only going to trade one thing, but I'm just showing because there's a few guys who like to trade the NAS on news. So again, wait for that move. And finally, for those of you who are smaller trading account, the SP500, US 500 is on TradingView. It's also good because you can have you can trade this with just a couple $100 and practice trading indices and practice for trading the US 30. That's what it's good for, does it? We'll see kind of bigger brother, slower moving as 500 companies as opposed to 30. So cap, so it moves slower but tends to move in very similar ways to 30. So for those of you with a small trading account, this is an ideal one to have a go at scalping on opens, news events, etc. You don't have to risk an awful lot on it. And again, it's doing the same kind of pattern. We've got a trend line formed here on our system. So we're going to look for a break on this and a break of our breaker, or this is going to push on up. Again, to retest our heavy. Wait for this inflation news now. Tune into Bloomberg so we get the bigger picture. See what we can get. So I'm going in S30, but I'll show you the 500 as after. Say, could be a non-trade. It's guaranteed. Bloomberg getting ready, as you can see.
Of Americans. We're going to get through this strong. Michael McKee will give us the data that we'll see in 4 minutes, and then we are honored to bring you Seth Carpenter. He is the chief global economist at Morgan Stanley.
4 minutes to go on US 30.
This is Bloomberg on radio, on television.
We'll count down, 3 minutes to go. The key ones is obviously the year on year and the inflation rate for the month. You see inflation is predicted to go higher, 0.2 for the year, but obviously this is the key one, 7.9, and it's going up and up, which is obviously why the Fed is pushing to hike interest rates, try and control inflation, even if that puts a lot of people out of pocket, the economy, and slows it down. They're willing to risk that to try and keep a cap on inflation as it trying to get into that 10% level. Crazy. So I'd be interested to see what this result is. It'd probably be bang on, but and again, I'm not really going to go because we're pre-market as well. I'm not going to jump in on whether it's good or bad. I'll wait for the result and just watch the reaction markets if there is any at all. Gold will probably move, but I'm just out of favour with gold at the moment. Focus on the 30, jump in, jump out. True scalp, don't mess around. Get some green and get out. That's the do it because, like I said, I've already done 25, 30 trades today. So there's more trades coming. As you can see, it's in a tight range at the moment. No move at all, as we'd expect usually before. Or the market opens for such a news event. Watch the countdown on here. Here we go. So we've got 1 minute to go. Good luck, everybody. Let's see. Like I say, let's see if we get a move on the 30. It's kind of building. Like I say, RSI's just peaked back out of our neutral zone at 57. But again, the RSI does not. It's not a dictator where the market's going to go. It can just as well shoot up as shoot down, so don't ever just assume set in stone. But it's interesting to see what this result is. 20 seconds to go. We'll set up, put it up. Okay, yeah. See what move we get. Nothing yet, look. 6. It's kind of better than expected. Well, it's higher inflation rate. Depends how you read that. So let's say RS up. test. What you hit the zone? Let's see. In out. Okay. Look, so look on that. We got some trades away. Brilliant. So we got four trades. I got 40. We lost 3. Got 7. Got 2. They're the first ones on that news result. Again, just going in on the RSI. Let's print that. So it's 47.50. That's about $75 there. CPI. And it's going to push up higher, so I'm going to go in again. Just see the RSI look pulling back from that zone. A bit slow.
Everything else is up with a report you have been waiting for. Our Michael McKee. Michael, do we get it right at 8:30?
We got it right now. Yes, as a matter of fact, Tom, and we're getting
CPI print was perfect.
Exactly what economists forecast on a month-over-month basis in March.
Let's see if we can get any more on it. Let's just watch and see.
It was up 0.8% the month before.
Push base. It's going to get to that heavy resistance level. You see, 74. Look, RSI.
5%. So there's a rounding issue in there that
here, look, into Bloomberg while we wait.
8.4%. It still leaves us in the same place. This is the highest inflation since January of 1982.
Mike.
Just let me do the core here, Lisa, and we can do that. 0.3%. That comes in lower. So there's some good news there. 6.5% on a year-over-year basis,
pushes
lower than anticipated. Than the economist survey said. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's fine, Michael. You know, there's a lot of market on the move. You're green on the screen, and the S&P futures up 29. That is a genuine percentage.
Yep, I've done it. We're disposing of a load of positions, and we're done. There we go. All right, what do we get? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Oh, so all in all, we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
even a fractional dollar weakness as well.
8, 9, 10, 11 trades. 11 trades, and we lost 3. And we won 122, 109, 21, 25, lost 17, lost 24. So we won about $300. There you go, on that news result. And that's all full news in the RSI. The reason I lost was there was a real delay, a real lag on my bloody broker today. That's sometimes the bane of a true scalper. That's it for me.
You can bring the
so
banners up
CPI
there, if you want, Cornish, the idea
scalped.
What average hourly.
And as you can see, I was right. Look, it retested. Once you see it pull back, as long as it's not a major heavy resistance, it's usually going to go away again. So that was a good result. It was the sensible thing to trade US 30 on it. Let's just have a look at US 500, and again, exactly the same. You guys with a smaller account there, look, traded.
Yeah, it's a little complicated because this only
US 500 for a smaller account.
Take into account other ways of earning money.
SP 500 was same.
Government transfer payments. So it's not
so brilliant. And let's have a look at NAS, and exactly the same. Look at that. But NAS really got carried away. So again, inflation, new inflation news was perfect to trade. This is why I love trading it.
Shock to learn, food, fuel, and housing are the main culprits.
And like I say, the only reason I took those losses, they were all in green. It's just the broker was really so enclosed, or my internet connection was iffy. But frustrating, but we got big wins. So,
however, gasoline prices have come down in recent weeks, so look for a little bit less inflation in April. And then in terms of housing, we see the rent prices were up by 0.4%, and owner's equivalent rent also 0.4%. That's
like I say, if you look at the result, there it was better than expected. That was the key one year on year.
Prices, airline fares. If you've been on vacation lately,
8.5.
They've been up.
But again, I would take that indicatively at greens, therefore is buy, because of how the market is at the moment. You want to wait for the move.
for
There's the
security.
move. Now we can go back in again, but we're tight. We're tight to a heavy resistance zone. RSI is 84, so what we're going to be looking doing? We're looking for the sells now, team. We're going back in on the sells, and that can be on SP 500, US 30, or NASDAQ. When the RSI gets that high, it's just going to come down. So let's wait. So we're waiting for sells.
Of this inflation report. Is there any sight out there, Professor Carpenter, Dr. Carpenter, of demand destruction?
So demand destruction's a tricky phrase, right? It says that prices.
Yeah, we did 1, 2, 3.
Demand goes away, which presumably then brings prices back
Yeah,
down.
we got 40, lost 4, won 7, won 2, lost 24, lost 17, lost 24, won 21, won 109, won 122. So we got 200, 300,
some of the
250.
categories, energy, food, that especially
yeah, we got about $300, so that's perfect. I'm just going to post that
this
through
report, though, is the fact that
price.
core underperformed, and we saw the rally in rates. I think if you look at used car prices, they were down sharply. Even the rent and owner's equivalent rent, which stayed solid, was actually off just a little bit. So instead of a continuing upward trend to those key drivers of inflation, we're actually seeing a little bit of a softening. So in our numbers, at least, and
that's done in basically
forecast, but in our numbers,
6 minutes.
the peak of inflation, and we're
Here's the kickback on the RSI. Let's see, is it going to push higher, or are we going to get some sales? Look, again, that can be on all of them. RSI is 82. Look,
this is a downside surprise. What do you make of that?
yeah, we're into it. Still really slow. I'm just going to reboot this.
I think everyone
broker.
knew that oil prices had gone up, and that was going to show through to this month's print. I think
massive delay,
for
which you usually don't get. Could be my internet.
Going to show through to this month's print.
We're okay. Here we go. Right, we'll try.
Underlying trend of inflation that's going to be with us.
See, RSI is 82. Look, I love these peaks you get.
Again, not just this year, but next year. That I think is.
Here we go. Now we're better. Now we're better. Now we're back up to speed again.
From this one report, we've been talking about how it's not just necessarily the peak, but how quickly it comes down. On the margin,
RSI is
how
81.
much does your forecast change after today's number?
Well, on the bright side, our forecast
Let's get a retest.
Much.
Could push back up again to that heavy resistance zone.
What's really important here is the
so you just want to be careful if you are going to trade the reverse, obviously. Watching it, and again, this is the same on whichever one you're looking at trading.
I think in that sense, it's very much the pattern.
We've got the open to come, remember, as well, so we don't need to get carried away.
Does that pattern change anything for the Fed, Seth?
You know, at the margin, it probably takes off.
No, not RSI is 80 now.
You know, the fire on the burner at this stage, but I don't think it changes things dramatically. There's no two ways about it.
500 just flattening. Look, with that zone. If you're trading the 500, get ready on that as well. And NAS is also coming back from the peak. So again,
in fact, one of the
good zones now to be looking for the reverse. It's not guaranteed; it could push back up, but we're getting some nice moves. I'm going to be in on this.
At least as much is how strong is the real economy? How much can they lean in?
I'm not going to hang around. Let's see if we get a retest.
Slow things down to get inflation under control. That, I think, is going to be the key.
Well, and that comes down to the tolerance of consumers for higher prices, their propensity to continue spending even in the face of them. Seth, what is your expectation around the demand picture and whether or not destruction is going to start to take form in the face of the higher prices really across the board?
500 as well.
Yeah, so Ellen Zentner, our chief U.S. economist, and her team
putting a high inflation pushes the markets up.
On Friday,
8.5. It says no guaranteed ever works out like that. That's why at the moment I'm just waiting for the move. Now we've got a blue zone, which is it backs up our kind of theory. Look, blue zone for everything. Blue zone, yeah, for the NAS, US 500 and US 30. So just hold on in there. Sells are coming, boys.
We do see a pullback overall in spending in the next couple of months, and so we are expecting Q2 to be on the softer side for consumption.
Seth, I want you to talk about.
And again, you just want to go for 50 to 100. I don't go crazy.
Is the area above or below whatever the horizontal line is? It's one measurement of the tone.
Yeah, if you just do 50.
In the great financial crisis,
you know, I go with what I think have got the most chance of getting on a pullback. You know, if it's a complete market reversal, then obviously it's different. As you can see, the calendar is saying bull 75%, still in an uptrend. just, trying to catch a little bit of a pullback.
Has been extraordinarily difficult for folks, and it has been extraordinarily more difficult for folks at the lower end of the income.
In any positions, yeah, we're just waiting because it's obviously peaking higher, and we've got the open to come as well, which is really cool. Because again, we're just jumping on that. We're not necessarily going to anticipate or trade the reverse of anything particularly. And wait for the RSI to kick us again. That kind of direction. So, ranged around a little bit, but it's looking like it wants to come down.
Unquestionably, and in that regard, I think the retreat of oil prices, some of it on the news of the coordinated release from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, that's got to help some.
See, we're clear now until the
extent of making people feel good. The economy is growing extraordinarily rapidly. Jobs are being created extraordinarily rapidly, and yet I think the sentiment, as measured through various surveys, is that people
gold, you see, pushed up on all that news. Obviously, see it as bad news for the the consumer. So gold starts to fly. Still pushing up, still 83. But again, you see, if you even put sells in now at this level, and you've got a bigger account like I have, and it can, I'm confident it's going to come down. Yeah, it could go to 89, 90, but I've still got enough, margin in my account to hold that, knowing that the RSI is going to bring price action down at least to the 75 level. Chance of it holding here for ages and ages is very slim. It's about one of the early times a key level that I think, yes, look at US 500s, even 88, more of a chance of some kind, but you've got to hold your nerve, and you've got a resistance level here now, support level underneath. It's going to range around. It might push up this high, so you can measure and go, how much drawdown can I accept? Can I accept 80 pips drawdown? If you can, then go for it. If you can't, don't trade it. Everything can be worked out before you enter a trade, your risk management. And if you were putting a sell in here now, your stop loss is going to be just above this heavy resistance zone, and then you're going to look to take profit round about the trend line, round about our points line anyway. So it's an easy setup to follow. You just got to sit on your hands and wait for the entry. US 30 looks ranging now, 83. Same as all three are the same. Just pick which one you want to trade and focus on it. Bloomberg is that, obviously.
Keeping you up to date with news from around the world with the first word, I'm Ritika Gupta. The World Trade Organization has cut its global outlook, saying Russia's war with Ukraine will slow the world's rebound from the pandemic. The WTO lowered its projection for growth in
things were well up today as well, which is really good. Frustrating on those 1, 2, 3, 4 losses. They lost 35, 3, it was 38, 38, 38, 70. They lost about $100, and it wasn't from going in the wrong direction. That was just by connection. So always make sure you've got a good internet connection when you're true scalping, that's for sure.
Ghost guns. It's a crackdown on purchasers who assemble potentially untraceable.
But we're well up today.
The Biden administration has been
took a few more reds than I usually take, but again, now I know why. I've rebooted and the connection's fine now.
Estimates that Apple may be about to announce a share buyback of as much as $90 billion. Jim Stieber also says the iPhone maker may boost its dividend by up to 10%. Apple's second quarter results are due after the closing bell April 28th. The company has more than $200 billion in cash on its balance sheet. Demand for air travel in the US is rising, but not as fast as the cost.
We took 39 trades today from London Open, and we lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 losses, 36 wins. So yeah, that's pretty successful. More red than I like, but at least I know it wasn't because of my direction. You know what I mean? That's what you've got to believe in. Things like connection issues or whatever you can't predict. Right, we're there. So things are still pushing on up. As you can see, we've had another spike up. But there was no sell yet. Hey, wait for this RSI. It's gonna be a correction. Zoom out and see that. Don't need to switch to any other time frames. But all the information we need here, look, we're 100% full. bullish and falling, which is what I like to see the trend is. It is pushing up, but that is not as strong as it was. So that's the same across the board. So we're just going to hold fire and see if we can, see if we can get a few trades on the 500 actually. Again, that's broke our zone now. Again, there's no sells on this yet. See that RSI? It's right at 90 now. It's so overbought. It's wicked. It is, you know. But again, it's hitting extensions, hitting the resistance. It's going to wait. We've got a support level here, so it's going to come down, bounce off that before it comes by. I suspect it will come back to our trend line.
When you think space, you probably
it could be on the open. We'd have to wait for this 45 minutes or so now, let the market do its business. We've been in, we've scalped the RSI successfully, like I say.
Which is surprising considering what the European Space Agency has achieved and how vital it is to the global space industry.
We did 10 trades. I thought I'd done more, but not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
ESA wants to be a leading force.
10. So we did 10 trades on that CPI news. We lost 3, we won 7. Like I say, we lost probably $100, but we won 270, 300, 350, 360. So like I say, we cleared about $300 profit. That's not bad for 6-7 minutes of trading.
It's really a reminder, isn't it, just how sensitive the markets are to any commentary about trade. We did see some pressure on the yuan. We did see some,
and then we'll see if we can get some sells in before the open, and we'll trade the open, and then we'll hang around for this the medium impact news. I like trading this one when times are pretty solid and there's no kind of world news affecting the market, so no geopolitical influence, etc. But I want to watch it anyway. It's one of my favourite ones. See any move. Again, I would usually trade gold with this, but I won't. I'll try and jump on the 30 again. It's a server of about 1,000 people. Look, it's quite cool. It's expected to be a less. Under 50 is a pessimistic market, which is obviously no great surprise. So we'll see if it's worse than this, and then we can maybe jump in on a trade to end our live stream with. But again, no guarantees with the economic calendar. It's where then we've got the speeches and monthly budget statements later on for those of you in the US session want to continue trading, looking at something to trade. The API crude oil stock, obviously yes, I would usually trade that. 1, it's at the end of the session, and 2, our oil is at the moment via the geo news. I would just again leave it alone, or at least if you're going to trade it, again wait for the actual movement, wait for price action once the news comes out. People always think I'm too late to enter. Not, because on a 3-minute time frame, it's a snapshot. Now the move will usually last 15 to half an hour to an hour, which we're seeing on US 30 here. Look, if you could have got in on any of these candles and not been late, because this is one big candle on a 1 hour time frame, which would be a bullish move based on the news. So don't ever fear you're too late to something. Always check and look. And it's better to wait for a move than actually try and anticipate. We all as traders wish we could anticipate the market and second guess it and predict it, and then we wouldn't have to work, trade or do anything because we would be extremely rich. So it never works out like that, and you can get caught using indicators, get drawn into that sucker, into that, find something, you look for something that's not there. This indicator, look how many times it's right, it's told me this and that. So use indicators to confirm a move. That's what you should be doing. Let the market do its thing, whichever way, doesn't matter if it's a buy or a sell. Then use your indicators to confirm the move, and then you've got to go for it. And if that reverses on you, so be it. But you've got to take that risk. That's what it's all about. Make sure you've got your risk management in place, and you've got to take the trade, because that's what we're here for. If you just always never take the trade, because even when you get it laid out in front of you and the setup, then you're never going to be a trader. You've got to take that risk. It's always a risk, of course. You just try and minimize it as best you can.
The Nazism of Ukraine. We have seen Mr. Macron
Enough mentorship.
over in France and near Switzerland. Madame Le Pen down the Seine River towards the English Channel campaigning as well. And the President of the United States will wander to Iowa to save his 10 cents a gallon on ethanol. Greg Vallier provides perspective. He is Chief U.S. Policy Strategist, AGF Investments. Come on, Greg. You and I are the only ones alive that remember the 97-year-old Jimmy Carter. What was he doing in April of 1978 on his way to being a one-term presidency? The same as Joe Biden?
Largely, yes, Tom. I think that Biden needs to do something fast to rehabilitate his image in the polls. Number one, I think it's time for a staff shakeup. I don't know Ron Klain. He seems like a nice guy, but somebody's going to have to be the sacrificial lamb, and it could be Klain. Secondly, I think Biden needs to pick up the phone and call Joe Manchin and say, Joe, I'll do whatever you want. You got to give me drug price controls. You got to give me some free kindergarten stuff. You got to tax big companies. There's things that Manchin would agree to. And I think Biden needs to get something done to show the public, for example, that he could do something about drug prices.
If we get a Republican Senate or House, how does that change 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Enormously. If even one of the houses goes, and let's face it, the House of Representatives...
No, US 30C were against the heavy resistance zone. And now you can see, as I say, the RSI is
still do regulatory stuff. He
back.
can still affect the financial industry with.
This is why I set this up on a separate screen. Really focus in on it. Get these moves.
In terms of an agenda on fiscal policy,
You can see
it would be over.
where.
Is it over for his climate agenda
it was.
in particular, Greg, as he looks
See there, look,
that was
the
SPR,
push up for the inflation news. So it was an easy transition, you know. As it gets this level, you could have got it again, which we did, and then obviously now we're waiting for this to
They are reeling. They're on the defensive.
back.
I think
And most people would enter sales once it comes out of this zone here. Can go back in then, so you can get a cheeky sell, and while it's in this zone, and then when it comes out here, end, wait and see if it pulls back in. Does, in which case it bounces off that 75, we go back in for a buy, or then you wait for it to come back and then kind of retest this average line of 60, and then you get more sells here. Then you hold fire, it goes into the neutral zone, and then guess what, it comes out the other end, you take more sells. If it comes out the neutral zone back again, then you're looking to buy again. You know, it's such a good system to follow. You just got to have it set up and just have, you know, also you've got divergence on here, look, hidden, you know, divergence telling you, you know, there's a good chance of a continuation of the bullish run, and it's there. So that's how I kind of look at it. It's in my mind all the time, the kind of patterns that I'm seeing following the RSI. It's really high at the moment. Look, 90, it's, you know, it's as close to 100% as you get that you're going to get a sell on this. The key is, when do you place the sell? And obviously you just want to see some price action. You want to see you know, this is why this calendar, you know, is the dashboard is great, because you're 93%. You want to see this lesson. You want to see, you know, the bear power increase 50-40.
I think that the chances are very,
and then you've got a conviction to jump in, and same as here, especially if you're a small account size. Big account size, there's no doubt loads of people who already slam loads of sells in. That's fine with a bigger account, because you're edging it that it is going to at least come back to our points of interest line here. Again, this will be the same for NAS or 500. If we set levels of,
and there's only a few months to go until then, Greg. That's
here
on
and
the
here,
domestic front. What about abroad? For U.S. allies, has the U.S. refortified its position
it's kind
as
of what
a
I'd
world
be
leader during this
on. This could happen after the Open.
Oh, I think we're going to have to send a lot more arms. I think that NATO is going to have to send a lot more. This is, after reading the interview in the New York Times, or the piece on the Austrian Chancellor.
That's the same again on
yesterday. You read that,
in fact, probably 2 lines.
Putin is not going to be dissuaded.
This
is going to get worse before it gets better.
Greg Vallier, thank you so much
there.
for your brief, timely to say the least there. We'll be watching.
This is a great run
with,
for the inflation.
Horton.
Yeah, some people won't even have a clue. They'll be like, why has NAS gone up? Why has the 500 gone up? Why is US 30? Yeah, I was going to sell. They're just nonchalant to the news. Don't understand how the economic calendar, even in times we're in, still affects the markets.
I'm not sure if Pharaoh
We know Mohawk, why use it to our advantage, when to get in and out of the trades, and when to look for the reversals.
Penalty. This from the BBC this morning.
Yeah, Tom, this is, of course, an issue that some of us had long forgotten, given the war in Ukraine, which actually, in some ways, was a political blessing to Boris Johnson, who could focus on foreign policy rather than some of these domestic issues. This is an investigation surrounding.
Still not giving up yet. Look, still it can range around the hold for such a long time, you know, and still keep pushing up. The RSI goes flat. Doesn't mean that price is flat. You know, it doesn't tie like that. It's a relative strength index. It's just telling you it's holding at 90. The strength's 90, so it's a good. It pushes price up. It doesn't always have to increase, but when you get these spikes, these troughs here, these are the ones I love to jump in on and buy. If you can spot them, you know, obviously, you know, yeah, you pick any like that. Look at that, you know, that was a buy on the reversal. That was a little buy on the reversal as well. Look again, if you just micro scalping, and obviously the newsprint we just had, that was the reversal there. And if you go back, you got, look at that nice little sell there.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, this is an
You've got a beautiful little buy there again, cheeky 5 to 10 pips. That's all we look for. You've got another sell there.
And of course,
And then you've got little buy there. Look, it drops out of the zone again. Got a sell there.
We're going to move forward through the morning, I should say, after this inflation report.
Got a buy there. So many of these little scalping patterns. You can see you've got a V there. Look, buy. Obviously it hits the over first loan, so we'll take a buy there. I won't take a sell there. Well, actually I would. I'll probably take a sell about there. Look, grab this. Again, even these little moves, you know, you're talking that's 26 pips. Just that little move, 28 pips. Take off your spread, commissions, whatever. Yeah, you're still going to come away with 20 pips profit. That's all these trades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Look, we're 12 trades in just on the 30. So that's kind of how I always use it, but how I see it when I see those kind of moves, I'm in. Even if it's against the trend, I'm in just to get some green and get out again, and just look for that optimum 5 to 10 pips. Not greedy. Because as you've seen, that's just one thing where you can trade and get multiple trades from, positions from. You don't need to hold for a long time. 30 still playing around, still holding, obviously. Again, we know this happens because we're coming up to that 30 minutes before the... You'll probably just range a little bit along the top, and then on the open we're either going to get a push up, or the down, or we're going to get the down. The RSI is coming down 88, look, we want to be down, and then we'll just jump in, grab a few pips, get out, and wait for the open. And like I say, the 500 is doing roughly kind of the same. It's higher at the moment, the 500. Obviously, more companies, more pressure, takes time. It's like turning the Titanic with the 500. That's why it moves slow, because it's, you know, all those companies in there. So we can see you got bullish and falling, and bullish and falling, and on the NAS bullish and falling. So that's kind of what you want to see. We're probably going to range for a little bit, but we'll jump in definitely on some sales. We're going to wait. Even on a 3-minute time frame, the waiting game. We know what we're looking for. We're looking for that.
There are balloons, there are flowers. This is a big deal for SpiceJet because it is the only Indian operator of Boeing 737 MAX planes currently.
Access the financial world on demand. Hear from leading economists, policymakers, and industry experts via live and on-demand webinars.
You can get 3 or 4 trades on US 30, 3 or 4 and 500. That'd be nice before the open, but hey.
Visit Bloomberg.com webinars.
As as well, look, exactly the same. You know, you don't want to be buying because you're really overstretched, and you don't want to be selling. It's kind of like you just, this is wait. Comes back into the zone. They can think about putting sales in. Look, and see it get inside that 85 level first, because it could hit here. Look at 77 and bounce back up. The same analysis for any of the systems, and then we can see, look, price action. Look at the candles, look at the dashboard. It's gone from 90 to 75. These are all the things. You look, 65 now on US 30, 70, look, 500 is the last one, 71 to pull. So this could be the start of it, team. So keep watching.
From New York City, for our viewers worldwide, I'm Lisa Abramowitz, in for Jonathan Farrow as we watch futures surge into the open. The NASDAQ flying nearly 2% after core inflation came in lighter than expected. The countdown to the open starts right now.
They're saying the core inflation came in lighter than expected. That's this one, 0.3, 6.5. This is what the market reacted to year on year one. Watching, we're waiting.
We begin with the big issue, markets focusing on one thing.
Go.
Inflation.
Inflation. Inflation.
Inflation is a problem.
So far, it seems as if inflation is the be-all and end-all.
The CPI number today.
We're in a new inflation regime.
Certainly not an easy position for the Fed.
But to me, the messaging is clear.
They need to normalize as quickly as possible.
The Fed has to get inflation under control.
This is tricky.
The messaging has been incredibly hawkish.
We'll get 50 basis points in May.
We do worry that there is demand destruction in this policy.
Trying to re-anchor those inflation expectations.
They are inflation fighters in a way that we haven't seen in the past 30 years.
Joining us now, Pictet's Ella Hoja, JP Morgan's David Kelly, and PIMCO's Jerome Schneider. Ella, I want to start with you about the reaction that we're seeing right now in markets. You are seeing that pop in equities. You are seeing that decline in treasury yields, even though if you strip out the fall in auto prices, this still looks like pretty pervasive inflation. Does this particular report change anything for you?
Well, the market's been looking for inflation to peak at some point, April to May.
We've seen it. We've seen the continuation of the bull run now. What we want to see is obviously, is the axe trading system giving us our bear signal. We've got a bull, and a lot of people trade one to the other. Bear signal. Sorry, look, we had the last bear signal here that was bang on. And there's your bull signal. We want to wait for the next bear signal. So that would be, now we're seeing RSI pull up 74. 500 doing, still hanging on. 84's trying to push. Is it all going to follow suit? NAS is ranging, look, 88. So US 30 looks like it's got the dip first. Now we've got a blue zone, and we're right on the heavy resistance, which is what we want to see. So see if this is going to push down. But yeah, ideally we want to see that bear signal pop on as well. As you see now, with 56%.
Because of core CPI really getting that high point. It probably marks,
as it comes out that zone, we're going to jump in.
Peak at this point. The reality is that it is a longer road, as we note here. And so while we are slightly optimistic on this figure that it gets us past the key point, we still have a little bit of headwinds ahead of us. Clearly, the wedge between core and headline is something to be contend with. There's also the real impact to the consumer, which we've debated here over the past few weeks. And ultimately, what we're seeing is a sigh of relief, specifically in the front-end markets, with front-end rates rallying here over the course of the past 35 minutes or so, really giving us
the NAS futures, look at that,
the Fed,
pumped up,
while still has to be active, while still
2%.
aggressive in the near-term sense.
There's your bigger one, your Russell 2000, small cap. So again,
core prints as
it's
high
up
over the course of the remainder of the year, which is what we believe here at PIMCO.
David Kelly, was there anything that gives you relief about today's report if you take a look at the specific aspects of the underlying data?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was interested. I mean, just small little things like food in restaurants didn't go up that much. Some of the the fact that the core CPI only went up by 0.3%. I do think the problem is there is a certain amount of sticky inflation that's going to survive even after energy prices break, even after some of these supply chain issues clear up, and you can see that in the 4.5% year-over-year gain in
Still holding everything up exactly the same as I said, as we're getting close to the open.
In the long run, this is not going to be an 8.5% inflation economy. It's going to be
Or going to drop on the open or pump back up again. We don't know. I'd love it to drop.
All right.
Where I see it, all three pretty much synced.
The inflation read. Let's give you some of the data. We saw an 8.5% headline level, which is the fastest pace going back to 1981. And
8.5.
right now, we are looking toward a Fed.
Here, look.
How much do they have to do? Bloomberg's Michael McKee has been tracking it all.
Talking
Mike,
about.
how much pressure does this really amp up on them?
Well, the headline number certainly puts pressure on the Fed. After all, this is the highest inflation since 1982, when Paul Volcker was the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and he had only been there for about 2 years and was bringing inflation down, but then it spiked again. We don't want that to happen. The good news comes in the core, where the core doesn't rise as much as anticipated. And at this point, the argument about whether you're looking at the goods or services prices that we've been tracking begins to sort of flow towards the Fed. Goods prices actually declined on the month of 4/10.
About 20 minutes till the open, so then we'll just watch, listen, learn,
service prices
take it all in.
rising, and they were up 0.7, so 4.7%. And that is what was anticipated by the Fed, that as
Keep
people
checking
spend more
back.
on services, they'd spend less on goods, and that would take off some of the inflationary pressure. They did not count on a war in Ukraine, and gasoline prices up 18.3%.
RSI 72.
Anybody who fills up their tank, 48% on the year. And food prices are still rising, and as we just mentioned, rent
Across our average
prices
line,
still
which we're
rising,
in.
0.4 higher, and that pushes the year-over-year level to 4.4%. That's going to be sticky for a while.
Slow, remember, still slow, same as the 500.
On the year, that is a
Again, RSI still high, you know what I mean, still high, so, but now you've got a resistance level that it's expecting.
It still works. Now, here's the good news going forward, to the extent that we haven't for
to
a
hit
while,
on the
is
sell.
the 4 months that we're in now,
Bounce off that
were
trend
the
line,
highest
maybe
months of
off our
inflation following
baseline
the
even.
pandemic.
Yeah, you could
And so
put that down, maybe
as we
here. It's
go
always a
through
zone
these
round
months,
about
we're
there.
going to see a
At least you
smaller
can measure.
contribution to
Still
inflation
got a chance
from
of
whatever we get on a year-over-year basis, and that should
5
bring
pips.
inflation down some. And the blue line there, that's gasoline prices. Remember I said gasoline prices were up 18.3%. They could actually decline in the month of April, and that would really push down
pretty
on
much the same again.
overall CPI.
Chance of
and
it coming.
make things look a little bit better.
This is what
It doesn't mean we're going
back
down to 2% anytime soon. As David Kelly said, we're going to be sticking in the 3 to 4% range. But this does give the Federal Reserve some hope that they can get there.
Michael McKee, thank you so much. And heading back to the panel, I'm just parsing through some of the components that Michael McKee was talking about, including the fact that, as Fitch says, almost the entire decline in core pricing came from the decline in auto
Waiting,
prices.
it's a waiting game, you know.
You do think this takes some pressure off the Fed. Why, if all of
Very
this
slow
has
at the
to do
moment.
with
Just
year-over-year
looking at how the
comps
price
with
action, you know,
autos?
is just.
Yeah, let me be clear. It takes a near-term pressure off the markets, which are probably
And
pricing
it's
it very
bullish
aggressive
and
from the
rising
outset.
now. So
But it's
now
still going to be aggressive
it's
because the
looking
markets
like
are
it,
left
you
an
know,
open
wants to
door
push back
to
up.
be aggressive with a 50
That's the
basis point
trend.
hike at least 1 or 2 times in the near future.
Again, we're just going to wait
I
and
think
see
what's
again,
more
but this is
important
no,
that the Fed is really gonna
you know,
focus on is not the
prediction of what's
month-over-month
going to
data in
happen
terms
on
of
the
used
open,
car prices
remember.
and things like that, although they're
And
important.
now
Clearly,
it's
goods
45,
prices and
44,
commodity prices are important.
55,
But
so
what they're going to do is look at that longer-term inflation metrics.
here we
They're gonna
go.
look at
US
the
30's on the
5-year
move.
break even, see if they get closer to 3% as opposed to
Oh,
2.5%.
brilliant,
They're gonna
brilliant.
look at
Right,
this Thursday's
let's see.
University of Michigan indicator number to see if those longer-term inflation expectations start
Now
to
suddenly
seep
it's decided to
into
move, look.
into the
Look at the
mechanisms of
speed.
the
This is
economy
what we
that
like
they
to
actually
see.
have to address. It's the longer-term psychology for
So
consumers, for
US
the markets, which is
500,
going to
yeah,
have to
that's
be
also on the
what the
move,
Fed
and
brings
NAS is now
aggressive to.
following
So
suit.
while
Amazing, all
this
synced together.
month-over-month
Look,
and the year-over-year core CPI probably marks that, given baseline effects,
markets are
the peak,
watching.
they're going to still be focused on that longer-term trend.
David, what's your sense of
So,
where we're going to head down, where we're going to trend in terms of how high the Fed is going to have
in
to raise
red.
the terminal rate? Where are you thinking?
Because again, look how much green there's been. Been green since pretty much the flash there, red, but again, it's been green since London.
Well, I think it'll be a little bit lower than that.
These kind of corrections and then bounce ups and down could be a double top. Both are aside. Let's see it get that red. Let's see it break through the zone here.
Now, if you go way back before the financial crisis, in the 50 years before the financial crisis, the real federal funds rate averaged 2% positive. So if the
for those of you with bigger accounts, you'd be selling now.
Or 2.5% inflation, add 2 to that.
Those with smaller accounts, you want to be waiting for the RSI, the red. You just
what I do
be
worry
cautious.
about is the economy's going to be a lot softer by the end of this year. I don't want the
Click
Fed
on the 30
pushing
because
up
that's what
rates
I'm
very aggressively right now, weakening
Again,
the economy,
you're following suit.
and suddenly staring into the face of a recession and having to stop doing what it's doing because it needs to get back to a normal monetary policy. So, I don't
neutral
think
zone.
I think that they'll chicken out basically before we go into 2023. So we might
They're going to get ranging around a little bit.
Rate in this cycle of
and we could get a pump back up on the open.
I'd be surprised
or
if we
drop.
actually end up being higher than that.
And this actually goes to a point that Deutsche
Still
Bank
slow.
was making, where they were saying that the Fed's policy path has major implications.
That nice little drop there, little move. People just took the profit off the table, basically.
By year end and achieving a 3% peak.
Then we've had no red all session.
Such aggressive tightening
Again,
of monetary policy
market that's to balance.
into a mild recession, likely beginning around Q4 of next year. Ella, does this seem plausible or likely to you?
We have to say that we are really playing here with probabilities, in terms of the scenarios and also what's
500 starting its decline. It's just a bit far behind. Looks still at 65. Now it's just a bit higher at 70. We're all doing a similar thing.
If you wanted to be really
we don't always do. US 30 is kind of leading the way.
Argument and suggest, which for some would suggest that we've already tightened by around 2.5%. As far as the Fed is concerned. And, so on a more controversial basis, some would argue that 1% is probably the terminal, as far as
size
the
deep
Fed
down
can go to this
at
time.
50.
Why? Because in all their sort of more recent tightening cycles,
break that level.
Each time we have peaked at a lower level. Now, of course, there are lots of mixes in this backdrop that we're trading in that suggests perhaps this time could be different. Perhaps this is a Volcker period. Perhaps this is 1994. But it's very, very difficult to say with a lot of certainty. So to us, the risks that the Fed can over-tighten and cause harm to the economy are high. And that's what the curve and the bond market's sort of telling you. But on the other hand, risky assets are suggesting that perhaps we can absorb this level of tightening and perhaps, inflation will indeed start to reverse much lower. So, very, very difficult to say with a lot of certainty. So to us, the composition of those two or the mix of those two says that we want to run lower risk at the portfolio level so that we can actually benefit from those dislocations that we think are likely to occur in markets.
500.
Thank you so much, Ella Hoja, David Kelly, and
NAS is now at 68.
with us as we parse through some of the themes that
Similar
you guys
patterns.
have all brought up. Joining us now with a look at the stocks moving ahead of the opening bell. Here's Abigail Doolittle.
Lisa, we have stock futures sharply higher. In fact, heading to the best day
So
in
we've got
about
15
2
minutes.
weeks. Before looking at what's working, let's take a look at what is weighing. First of all, the shares of CarMax are down. This on their earnings report that was disappointing. A big earnings miss by more than 20%, despite the fact that used car prices were up 40% year over year. Weighing on same-store sales down 6.5%. That stock down 4.5%. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is also lower, down 2.5%. This as HPE is part of a 3-stock downgrade at Morgan Stanley, also downgrading F5 and NTAP. The analysts there are cautious on telecom and network equipment stocks, saying that the strong dollar may slow international enterprise sales. As for what's working, energy is higher. ConocoPhillips up 1.6%, in line with oil, up about 4.5% at this point. A little bit of a rebound there. And then, of course, the big trade after the CPI came out, Apple up 1.5%. Now, Citi is also talking about the fact that they may raise their buyback and dividend, but with yields in a little bit, that is helping out technology. Apple up about 1.5%, Lisa.
Abigail, thank you so much. Coming up, we'll shift focus overseas. U.S. officials warning of Russia's renewed focus on the Donbass region.
To be a mix of personnel carrying vehicles as well as armored vehicles and maybe some artillery. This does seem to be an early effort by them to reinforce their efforts in the Donbass.
That conversation coming up next as we take you to the open amid a surge after core inflation came in lighter than expected. From New York, this is Bloomberg.
Look. Got 100. As is the best one at the moment. Chance of getting 100 points, 10 pips, that. It just sat on the support level now. Break it, zoom in, wait. 50 minutes to go till the open. RSI going to get down to that level of 45. Look where it tested, bang, back up. We're going same again.
Everyone you meet in Port Harcourt has stories about what they call black soot, caused by the manufacturing and consumption of these fuel products in the illegal refineries.
Focused on 30.
Known as bunkering, and the refining of its spoils.
If we're going to get buys and sells, or sells and buys. 100. Again, doing the same kind of pattern. They've all had a drop. Now they're just kind of consolidating. 500 watts to get back into that zone. Again, you've got a nice chance. On stalling at the moment as well. Getting away from that average line. Look, plenty of time. So then we've got the news in 5 minutes. We'll try and trade that. Go, see what we can get. So far, so good.
Stocked early enough all these precious materials you were just mentioning, and we were on the lucky side that our prognosis was spot on in a way, forecasting what kind of material we would need and what quantity we would need.
Season is coming.
The bar is pretty high.
We're going to see lower earnings growth.
The sentiment on financials has been pretty dour.
Bloomberg breaks the numbers first.
Tesla's gaining on record deliveries for the first quarter.
The industrial sector is getting hit pretty hard.
Every tick down is a big deal.
With exclusive expert analysis.
There are a couple of things that concern us.
We have to break out a different playbook.
There are opportunities out there.
Bloomberg Television and Radio. The fastest numbers and analysis you trust.
Down again. Quick have a look. US 30.
The Russians are in fact trying to
RSI 49 is going to get that 45. We'll jump in, get some sells and get out. Let's see. Gonna do it.
In the past.
Red yet, you see.
We are we're probably turning another page in the same book of Russian brutality.
A delicate moment in Ukraine as Western allies shift their focus to the Donbass region. Russia's Vladimir Putin, saying he is confident his operation targets will be met. The Austrian chancellor offering little comfort after his meeting with Putin, saying, quote, I have no optimistic impression that I can bring you from this conversation
Brilliant.
with President Putin.
Jumped in there. We did 3 sales on US 30. We got 30, 17 and 20. So we got 9. Up. 57. We got about $100 there. And then about 10 seconds. I just jumped in on those sales. Just to print that in the group. 3 sales on US 30. Didn't mess around. Just as it broke that, I'll go again if it goes red. But it depends on the time because we're 10 minutes away from the open. That's the only reason why I don't hang around and hold, because obviously it can be volatile. But again, I just saw it broke that level. As soon as it did, I jumped in and it came down, filled that wick for me off 10. I'm done. Now we'll see if we can get anything on US 500 as well. We'll push down in the same. Okay.
is going to come next? Why are they not moving? And really putting the pressure on European allies to ban Russian oil and then prepare for their next tranche to ban Russian natural gas. So that's part of it in terms of sanctions. The other part is, of course, that we are seeing
So we'll wait for the opening.
public outcries as well as physically deliveries of weapons to Ukraine as Ukraine prepares.
If RSO is going to hit that 45, enough to get another $10, $20, $30, mate.
Expertise in the oil markets, and frankly, have been tracking everything that's going on with the gas markets as well in Europe. How realistic is it for the sanctions to get expanded over in Germany, for example, to the oil and gas sector?
It's going to be incredibly difficult. You might
500 is pretty much stalled. NAS is stalled as well. We're waiting for the open now, pretty much. You can see the price action. The only one that might move is US 30s. Might fill that wick. In case I will jump in again on that sell, because again, that wick is worth 10.
Because most of their fossil fuels, very cheap fossil fuels, come from Russia, and they just don't have the infrastructure prepared yet.
Just go,
yes, they are
be safe.
New LNG terminals to take in liquefied natural gas, say from Nigeria or Qatar or the United States.
So far,
but
so good.
That's going to take at least a year to build. You cannot.
An expected little sell on that. I didn't think it'd be that quick.
Who says they will never
As done.
Natural gas or oil, and that they're even willing to pay Putin with it.
And we just closed 2 again. There you go, brilliant. We did it. And we got another, as I said, I got another £30 there, another $40, another 2 sells, and that is going to be it for me. I'm too close to the open now, but I just get 2 more sells. Because again, it's going red, broke. Let's see, pushing down. It's going to push down to that
These are non-fundamental
level now.
that are totally out of our control.
Ready for grabs, possibly. So close to the open is where you just, you want to do it, and then you want to hold. It's going to drop, and then you regret it. You just don't want to get FOMO. You know, just cautious. You've only got 7-8 minutes till the open. You want to be trading on that. So if you miss this trade and miss out on 50-60, it doesn't matter, because there's going to be another trade coming in 7 minutes that you're going to jump into. So, you know, that's how you have to see it. That's when you've got to sit on your hands and be firm.
Settles into this, a horrible but protracted fight in eastern Ukraine. Your last report, I think, was essentially correct, that the Europeans aren't in a position to cut off natural gas.
We've got half an hour till the final news event, and then that's it. We are done. We'll get some coffee. That's good, because we're smashing the levels today.
Also at these prices, that will be spurring a lot
500, just flipped 500. It's all gone grey now into that zone.
I think the trend from
pretty
here
cool.
is probably down for oil, and you can see that in the futures market.
It's hit TP1 as I predicted already. It's going to come down for TP2. Again, move slower.
Should gradually come down. I can't promise that month to month, but they should gradually come down, because
again, like I say, you could have loaded sells in from the top here, totally fine. Just depends on your account side, or you wait for red or wait for grey. And I don't usually trade on grey, but when it's a reversal in the direction, you know what I mean? The trend is still bullish and rising overall. Remember that. Just a correction, look at the bigger picture. But don't let that put you off scalping, obviously. That's the whole idea. Now on the open, which way is it going to go? No one knows.
We would
so we'll wait and see. We're going to get bigger drops. Say that's filled that wick now, as I said it was, hit up trend lines. Now I could have nipped in and grabbed that, but I say you've just got to know when to stop and hold and wait for the picture, which is going to be the open, which is coming up. Mark of this arrow, NY open.
Down from here in terms of oil prices, at least. So with that in mind, actually, if anything, we've been stepping away from some of the.
Love to trade natural gas again, but the spreads are so huge. As soon as you enter a trade on that, you're like hundreds in drawdown already. But the potential to win is amazing. But yeah, again, you've just got to get it spot on and have a big account and not stress.
David Kelly and Jerome Schneider, you're all sticking with us.
Oh, flashing bright red flash. Do you see that flash? Do you see that flash? Was there like a real crazy flash red then?
Not exactly encouraging. Coming up, the morning calls and later the latest inflation print sending Treasury yields lower and big tech rebounding following its worst day in more than a month. More on that conversation still ahead as we still hold on to 1.5% gains heading into the open on the NASDAQ. From New York,
still gains, still holding on to 1.5% gains on NAS, which is right. And we're just trading the corrections a lot of traders don't see. I'm not saying this is a bearish move. It's just a slight correction, you know, in the bigger picture. Have a quick look. See, the European index has already dropped. This could be an indication that US is going to follow. You look at that. Bang on at the moment. RSS 40. Again, if I was trade this outside of the open, I wouldn't be placing a sell. Why not? Because we're sat on a support on a trend line. So wait, even though the RSI says go, this says hold. Wait, and you've got a breakout zone here. Wait for it to clear this zone and then go. Obviously now we're just focused on the RSI. We know the volatility in the open will push through any trend line or points of it. That's why we don't take as much notice on the open. You know, if it respects these zones, what will happen is you'll get the V shape on the RSI. It will shoot up, we'll take a buy. If it breaks them, obviously it's just going to continue down and we'll win, you know.
If we want to have successful human missions to Mars, we are going to have to learn to live and work off-world in a different way. The place where we are going to learn to do that is on the moon.
Well in.
Help humanity take its next giant leap.
Got 4 minutes to go. See what the picks are going to be as we get towards the open. Good luck, everybody.
This is Countdown to the Open. I'm Lisa Abramowitz in for Jonathan Farrow. Taking a look at markets, you are seeing equities give up some of the gains. The NASDAQ up about 1.5% now. From the bond world, you're seeing yields on 10-year space going back down to 1.71% after having been as high as 1.82% earlier this morning. Time now for morning calls. A look at some of the analyst recommendations on Wall Street that we're watching. First up, Citi downgrading Cisco to sell. The analyst
Cisco.
challenging environment amid difficult comparisons.
500 still dropping, ranging. Is it going to break this level? Exciting. Is my arrow going to be right, or are we going to be looking at this? Doesn't really matter, like I say, because we're just going to follow the momentum. And we're in the neutral zone, which is always harder to predict. But remember, wait for the move. Don't panic. Wait.
Plus the opening bell up next, and we talk about what we're seeing, particularly in the tech sector, with a lot of people
3 minutes to go.
Perhaps we're going to see a rotation. This is Bloomberg.
And NAS exactly the same. NAS is probably easier to predict because it could bounce off that one that climbs. Who knows? And predict it. Tools to help them. Green, get ready, we're all loaded up. Yep, we're good to go. Just make sure we're on the 30. Always double check which thing you're trading. Don't do what I used to do and mistakenly think I was trading one thing and I was not clicked on it. I was trading the Mexican peso by mistake. Everyone's done that. Sure you're on the right. Okay, we've got 2 minutes to go. RSI is pushing up, look, but that doesn't mean anything. Pushing down, that doesn't mean anything. So again, we can measure, and again you can measure to see what potential you can get. Look, from any position, you know, 25 pips. Do I need 25? No, I just need 5 to 10. That's the advantage of trading. When you start getting your account size 500 to 1,000, 1,000 to 15 to 2,000, You don't have to be risking it, holding big mega pips. The longer you're in the market, more chance of it going wrong on you. That's the way I see it. You know, and if it wasn't like that, we'd all just hold one big long trade, hold it forever and be rich. You know, so the less exposure, the better. Through scalping.
The recent price spike could mean more farmers going organic for the long term.
Here's organic farm. Right. Go. 30 seconds away. Let's get ready. Our trigger finger. Hope we get a delay this time. See what we get. What RSI is going to do. Buy. Move, look, eat. Seven. You do anything yet?
Why do the biggest names in business choose Bloomberg?
That is a great question.
It's a great question.
It's a great question.
Great question.
Great question.
Great question.
Great question.
That's going to be the best question I get all night. I'm glad you asked that.
Bloomberg Television.
Again, still in that zone, still doing anything. See, still not entered, still waiting. 500s. 500's gone for a sell. Taking a profit. Just taken 4 trades on the 500. Perfect. That was a nice drop. Look at that. Perfect. There you go. I was in on that on the other screen. Spotted that. US 30 hasn't really done anything yet. Push. Waiting. The 500, that was a nice win. There you go. Look, it dropped perfectly. NAS was also a sell. Beautiful. Well done on that one if you caught that one. That was a nice win on the 500. Again, I've not traded that before. Got in on that. And look at that. The US 30's decided to go the opposite way, you see.
5% to $99 traded on the NYMEX. A lot of this has to do with that CPI report. I do want to just bring to you, we are getting some developing news coming out of a Brooklyn subway station where we're hearing reports of either some sort of explosion or a series of explosions or some sort of
waiting on US 30 still. Look, I got 23, 31 and 38 and 3 on 500. That was good. On the sell there, look. Post that results in.
Right now. Joining us now with a look at the stocks moving at the opening bell. Here's Abigail Doolittle. Abigail.
Well, Lisa, there's finally some relief for the
easy to spot.
Been under tremendous pressure recently with rising rates. Now that rates are lower on that CPI print, tech is.
But yeah, US 30 looks not doing anything. It's just actually just look at that. Where's they've taken a nice move. It was a nice sell. Going to be in and out on that. As we know, it's probably going to refill that wick. It's still pushing down. So's NAS. The guys are taking profit on this. I'm tempted to put a sell on US 30 because direction of those two, but again, that's no guarantee. It's ranging, although it's still stuck. I want to see it make a move, so I'm got my finger on the trigger.
Per share, Lisa.
Abigail, just quickly here, how much are you surprised? Are you hearing surprise from analysts?
It's not a buy, it's not a sell. Sometimes you get this. It's like I say, it's not guaranteed. There's a trade. I mean, there was a trade on the 500. I had this, and I'm showing one of the buy on the other screen. Saw that drop. There you go. Look, there you go. There's the sell on NAS and that. And US 30 now, I think, is going to join the ship. So go in on US 30.
Downtrend in yields over the last 40 years, marking the great bond bull market, but with yields coming in just a little bit.
Close it, we've done it, we've got 3 trades away. Yes, that's it, done. And we've got 21, 13 and 23, so another 60, 70 pounds on US 30. That's how quick you got to be. Why? Because it's so close to that trend line. But again, that was cool because the 500 led the way. 500 reacted first, then NAS. And then the 30. The 30 is now ranging, but so I've got in and out again. As soon as I see the green, as soon as I'm starting making money, I'm out. You know, you don't have to preset. Look at that. You see, NAS hit our TP. Perfect. Well, happy with that. I hope you guys got some of that.
They've confirmed that shots were fired in the FDNY. The fire department of New York has said that they have also.
It was a nice, easy open.
Of this subway station. So the issue is they're trying to figure out, is this some sort of detonation of something, or is this shooting, gun shootings of people? So that's what they're trying to figure out now.
Shelley, before we let you go and get some more details, how much are we seeing this as part of a pattern?
Again, US 500, same, beautiful. Easy to follow. RSI is now red. Going to hit that second level.
Well, crime in general is
Good news was over. You see, the good news was over, and there's always a correction. Said, and there it is now. US 30 is ranging. You see, why is it ranging? Because it bounced off trend line. So again, just wait. That's why I nipped in and out. Don't mess around, and we shall wait again. Wait again for either the buys or the sells. Don't do anything with US 30 until it comes out of that zone. Really bizarre. I've never seen it move like this before. Really, really bizarre. And not for a long time.
Things that are very high profile, visible, throwing someone in front of a train, shooting someone in broad daylight. Those are the types of things that, while the numbers may be lower, they get a lot of attention. They get a lot of headlines, and they make people scared.
Yeah, I can imagine. Shelley Banjo, we'll let you go get more details on this developing story. Thank you so much for being with us. And I do want to say, for anyone who's commuting, that there is no DN or R service in Brooklyn and some stations in Manhattan. This, according to the MTA right now. So some major subway lines have been stopped as emergency staff deal with what's going on at the Sunset Park Brooklyn subway station. We do want to turn back to markets where it really has been driven by inflation, which frankly is underpinning a lot of stories that really do dovetail into some of the concerns that people have, especially globally when you see social unrest in many countries.
RSI's now pushing up, you see. Again, it's dangerous. Not going to do anything, just going to wait. The 500 was definitely easier to follow. See?
In the midst of a bubble.
Definitely a nice drop, a continuation. Which does always happen. You can get, you could get it where it can go totally the opposite way, and we're going to get a double top and then push down.
Typically, when the bubbles collapse, they overshoot. What's a typical bubble down? It's not down the traditional 20, 30%. It's usually a lot more.
US 30 now pushing up, you see. Here you go. This could be the move. Get a push up before a push down. By coming out of that zone.
I want to start with you. Do you think that people have priced in throughout markets, and I know your specialty is in the short-term space, how high overnight rates may have to go in order to really curtail some of the inflationary pressure?
They really have forecasted a pretty aggressive.
Got 2 more buys. Yep, brilliant. We jumped in there, and we've got 13 and 9. We've got £21. We've got $30. There you go. $31 on that move. Why? Because I saw the candle move. Like you can see it moving nicely up. So why mess around? Just get in, get out. It's too cheeky bad.
But the other side of the coin is what we've also talked about over the past week, which is bringing the balance sheet from the shadows into the spotlight. And this is an important metric because ultimately part of the debate is going to be not necessarily how high and how often the Fed has to increase rates, but to what extent does balance sheet.
That's all you got to do. Just get these multiple little wins all added.
There's going to be probably a debate in terms of how damaging higher rates eventually become to segments of the economy, to segments of the middle and lower classes. And that's probably going to be a debate for later this year and early into 2023.
Well,
it doesn't necessarily paint rate cuts, but it does perhaps slow or perhaps create a bit of a debate and contemplation within Eccles building when FOMC meetings come around. So the notion of where we sit here today in terms of front-end rates, specifically where we started earlier today at about 2.5 or 2.55% 2-year note, although we've rallied, it still marks a pretty aggressive tenor in terms of where we're headed in terms of rates. And more importantly, and I think this is an interesting fact, is that when you extrapolate where the 2-year rate is, it's really suggesting that the 1-year rate in 1 year is above 3.2%. And that's a fairly aggressive number that is actually fairly attractive to invest in from a carry and yield and income perspective. And that
we're doing 50 trades now. 50 trades today, and we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses. 6 losses. So, and we're well in the green for the day, trading from a £3,700 account, 3,700, and we are 30% up. There you go. Look at that move. Beautiful. So there was the key move, NY Open.
It's really a matter of valuation, stock by stock, security by security. There are some things that make sense and there's some things that make no sense. And I think everybody knows that. But I think that we're out of the days where you had very low rates, very strong growth, and you get away with anything. I think valuations will be much more called into question in the next 2 years because we're going to have a bumpier macro environment here.
All right. Well, we've got more. Abigail Doolittle is back with us to look at some of the broader consensus views. Abby, what are you looking at?
Yes, indeed. Well, the Bank of America April Fund Manager Survey, key takeaways, lots of key takeaways to come from that monthly
Well, yeah,
survey. So
I would safely say that's me done for the day. I didn't realise I'd done that many. It's because I played catch up this morning from the DAX, you know, with me missing the open. I should have just not traded it, but I was just, you know what I mean? The trades were there, so I just took them. But yeah, and again, that was a nice buy. We're going to get a nice double top. We're in heavy resistance, so that was a nice little retest. Whereas US 500 and NAS done the same. There you go, look, and NAS about to do the same. Amazing when they all sync. One leads the way, and NAS and 500. US 30 led the way on the sell, NAS 500 followed, they led the way on the open, and then the US 30s led the way back. RSI 72, if it breaks that zone, then obviously you want to be looking for a buy above it, and on the 500 exactly the same. Now you've got a V, there's your V look on your RSI, drop that line across it, and this is where you should have, here's that pushed up and went green, I'd have been in for a buy. Looking at my screen at the time, so I didn't. So already 10 pips there. Nice little. Look, someone says to you, what's the direction for the open? It was a sell. Now you're getting the move. Let's see if it pulls up and then comes back down again, because usually you find the initial direction that the market eventually goes in. So we could get this.
As you can see, for investors to worry about this year.
Yeah, and frankly, the range.
Could get this all the way back down to there. That's what we could get.
Thank you so much. We've been talking about
That's so you guys can follow.
And Ella, I'd love your view. Just weighing in
Group.
on whether we perhaps are seeing some.
Could be looking at kind of a double top end pattern on the 500.
With the rate and the rate uncertainty.
As I don't know.
Necessarily rate hikes.
Some might want to drop.
Well, so
Same.
Forex has had a very positive correlation with interest rates, so yields, and it sounds like from the
Wait and see. So we've got about 20 minutes to go. I just want to check out this optimism report, and then we'll end the stream.
Therefore, that probably doesn't bode so well for the tech sector. You know, look, we've had quite a bit of repricing there, and you know, I concur that it's very specific to certain names, and the growth story is there. But it's really about the broad macro environment. That's really factor one that's driving a lot of this prices. And you know, it's difficult to sort of take the other side to the Fed. But I think the arguments made earlier in terms of the value in the front end of the curve, that to us is attractive here. Given the carry-on role and given, you know, how much more hawkish the Fed would need to become from here for you to lose.
Yeah, you just when you had the trades, so you don't realise how many you've done. But I take the trades, however they fall. That's the way. That's the way it's got to be. Yeah, here's what we're going to look at now. 17 minutes. We'll do this. These economic optimism. But again, I probably won't trade it unless I see a move. But I'll go on the US 30 and see.
Speaking is really what's
Use coming up. I'm just going to put the arrow.
You know how far yields can
ready.
Go from here. And we obviously have repriced a lot. Another thing to say on yields is typically when
see if we get a move on it or not.
You know, going forward,
we're well up to date, so we can just have a go at it. You know, if you don't have a go and practice, whether you're on demo or live, you're never going to know. That's a simple thing. But no excuse not to practice your trading with a small account or with a demo account before you go live, because there, just practice. Try and be consistent how you take trades.
Some of that allocation come to the fixed income side, and you know, so on the tech story, perhaps that gives.
NAS, yeah, might be pulling back. We'll just wait, and it's right sat on a resistance. It's trapped now between the zone and a points of interest line, so I wouldn't rush to take any trades on NAS at the moment. The 500, like I say, we're looking at this pattern to form. So if it crosses the average line, you can go again on the buy, and if it crosses 75, you can go again on the buy. Then wait for the sell. 30. We're just going to watch this for the.
Evidently, multiple people were injured.
Grab a drink, one sec.
Whether this was also a shooting, the perpetrator, the suspected perpetrator.
Oh, that's better. Right.
At large, the CNY did say there
A drink of my orange.
Devices that they are working on. We will bring you anything further that we get as we try to determine what happened and what the fallout will be. From New York, this is Bloomberg.
There you go. There was your. Could have gone again. That. So I'm just going to wait for this news. Don't need to trade anymore. Nice to watch.
That is telling us this is transitory.
Need to catch up?
This is Bloomberg Wall Street Week. I'm David Weston.
We've got the information and insights.
David, you just hit the nail right on the head.
From businesses most influential and instrumental.
And that's the way you run good risk management. We need to invest in our systems.
Bloomberg Wall Street Week premieres Friday with replays all weekend on Bloomberg Television and Radio.
We know that it's highly transmissible. We know that 2 doses of vaccines, Pfizer vaccine specifically, neutralize the virus, but not as efficiently because various studies showing that reduction up to 40-fold, meaning that a 3rd dose is a must for it to successfully neutralize the variant. What we don't know is still that what are the effects of mix and matching between vaccines and what are the capabilities of antibodies produced from this mix and matching in neutralizing Omicron. Because as we know, many parts of the world use different types of vaccines. And that would be a great data to look at. It will be also great to look at, because majority of the studies done uses a small sample number, and most of the time when you translate it to real world, the data changes. So it will be really good to look at large scale data of the ability of antibodies from vaccines to neutralize this variant. Grateful here today that the virus Omicron variant still uses ACE2 receptor as its main entry. It means that all of the vaccines which are designed with spike in mind still works. Imagine if it uses a different receptor other than ACE2. None of the vaccines will work today. So I think that is the best news that we got from all these studies which came recently, the past couple of days.
Front Row, exclusive interviews with the most influential figures in finance. Lloyd Blankfein.
Deflation is a terrible thing. Inflation you could tolerate.
Kathy Wood.
Tesla will be in the pole position to dominate.
Jeremy Grantham.
We've had a very, very abnormal honeymoon Goldilocks period.
First available on the Bloomberg Terminal, then on Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg.com. Front Row, the best seats in the house for business's greatest minds.
Bloomberg Markets at the Open. Just want to bring you some breaking news. We were looking at live shots after multiple people were shot inside a Sunset Park, Brooklyn subway station this morning. We are hearing about undetonated devices found also in that station. The FDNY reporting that, and the MTA saying that no DN or R service currently is operating in Brooklyn. Right now, we have Bloomberg's Patricia Hurtado with some more details. Can you just describe to us, Patricia, the scene in Brooklyn right now?
Well, this area is a major transit hub for people going north and south in Brooklyn. It goes through most of Chinatown in New York City and through Manhattan and all the way into Brooklyn. There apparently is a chaotic situation. There were people evacuated from the subway station with a smoke condition, as well as reports of people being shot. The latest reports are that 13 people were injured and 5 people were shot. And it's possible potential undetonated bombs also located in the subway station.
So do we have a sense, Patricia, of who might be behind this, how widespread this is, or what the prognosis is of the individuals that were wounded?
Unclear of the situation of the people and how injured they are. There was chaos this morning with helicopters swooping overhead. Apparently, there was an indication of a preliminary information of a suspect who was wearing a construction vest and a gas mask. And people were evacuated out, and all transit and subway service has been suspended in that area.
Do we have a sense, Patricia, of how rare this is? Because there have been a lot of reports recently about increasing crime, and we were just hearing from Shelley Banjo about how if you look on a sort of historic level, it still is down significantly relative to the recent past. What about in subways? What type of security is there? What type of situation is it?
Well, there has been a situation in the past. The subway
500 now, look, as I
system
said, that was a nice
particularly
buy.
vulnerable to
Push up to the blue zone, then you can wait for this retest.
There was an incident
It's going to
at
break
Penn
it,
State
more
in the,
buys. If it's going to push
Port
back,
Authority
sell to the
bus
trend
terminal
line. If it breaks the
connected
trend
to the
line,
New York
sell
City
down to
subway
your
station in
levels here, look.
2017, where a guy who was inspired by ISIS set off a bomb. And he was sentenced to life in prison, and he constructed a pipe bomb and detonated in the transit hub, which was people were injured, and the threat of loss to life. So, he had zip ties. He wanted to take hostages. There was also another incident a very long time ago in which they wanted to bomb the Atlantic Terminal subway station, which is a major artery hub. And that was only thwarted at the last minute because one of the co-conspirators gave his fellow colleagues up. So it's always dangerous situation.
Yeah, and this is a developing situation, and we will keep monitoring it. Patricia Hurtado, thank you so much for being with us. And right now, just to give you a sense of what we're seeing in markets as we monitor this breaking news situation in a New York City that has been recovering from the pandemic. I think everyone is a little bit wary and frustrated after crisis, would like to move on. We are seeing in markets a bit of a pop after the inflation report came in a little bit weaker than expected on the core level. Coming up next, we'll bring any more details that we get. This is Bloomberg.
Awful. Awful. Like I said, we've got 8 minutes to go. We're just going to do this IBD economic optimism news now. Just see if actually anything. Factory as well, which we use. They're predicting it. So, tentative, as it's saying. Time. Again, they're shooting 41 my FX book, so there's always a difference. See if it does move the 30 in any way, shape or form or not. Just want to watch it. I'm probably not going to trade, like I say, doing all those trades today. That's enough.
I think what we've seen during this period of time is that communicating via video is not a fad, that we are using it in all aspects of our lives, for work, for learning, for communicating, for staying in touch.
I just want to bring you the latest headlines. We are hearing of multiple people injured after a shooting in a Sunset Park, Brooklyn subway station. We are hearing that there were several undetonated devices that the FDNY found in the subway station. They are continuing to investigate this. We are viewing images on the scene as a number of emergency responders do come and investigate what's going on. We also know that some of the subways, particularly the B, N, and D lines, are not running in Brooklyn. We're hearing that from the MTA. Time now for the trading diary, what you need to be watching this week. A host of Fed speakers with Brainerd and Barkin on deck today. President Biden speaking at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. JP Morgan reporting results on Wednesday. Goldman, Citi, and Morgan Stanley following on Thursday. And finally, an ECB rate decision rounding out a short week. We have those ECB officials starting to align the need of rates, dealing with some of the issues with respect to trying to combat inflation in an area where the economy isn't as hot as it is in the United States. Bloomberg's Michael McKee back with us for more. Mike.
Well, Lisa, let's take a quick look at what the issue is for the ECB. Obviously, it's inflation as it is for the Fed. Inflation at 7.5%, the headline number for the Eurozone, way above their 2% target. But it's also growth. There is a problem for the ECB with growth already, even before the war in Ukraine. And now that's raising a lot of questions. You can see the issue there with the Eurozone CPI going up and growth going down at the same time. And they have to figure out, what's the war impact going to be? Does it push up on inflation even more as energy prices rise?
We've got 4 minutes to go.
GDP?
Let's just see.
A lot of economists predicting a
Like I say, all this news is
recession
kicking off now, and
for the
Brooklyn might
Eurozone.
override
Maybe not
everything.
too bad,
So
but they don't know.
it's terrible.
And then how
news.
long does the Russian war last?
Let's
The longer
see.
it goes, the worse the outcome.
I'm just going to
for
watch and
Europe.
see if you get a move
So
on it.
the question is, do they do something
I've
on
closed my
Thursday?
broker
They
actually just to
warned
stop myself
about it.
trading.
ECB has kept
Closed it
rates
down for the
unchanged
day.
throughout the pandemic, of course. The problem for them now is that markets are pulling rates higher because of all of this, especially the inflation concerns, Lisa. We're going to be watching to see if the ECB can thread a needle on Thursday.
Yeah, and I wonder from your perspective, having it just quickly, Mike, what statistic stuck out to you in the CPI report that really was the driving news about a half an hour ago?
It was such a slow on the 30. It was
that was all because of used
on the
cars
open.
falling
That was
3.2%.
weird. He just didn't get a
Services
move.
prices went up.
You just got to
That was
hold and
because
just
airfares
wait.
went up
Hey, just wait.
3.7%. So neither of those are
Got the
likely to
sell.
be sticky. We don't
Then we've
know
got the
exactly
buy.
what it means for the future, but it does suggest that maybe inflation is.
And we've got the hidden bearish,
now.
bullish divergence. So again, when it comes, you count 5 candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
In Brooklyn. The New York
Bottom.
Police Department is saying that no active explosive devices
This was
are
as
currently
well.
at the 36th Street Brooklyn station, that is in Sunset Park, where this occurred.
This
There were
one here,
multiple
look.
people, just to remind you of what we do know,
Look.
multiple people injured in a shooting, and we do know that they are working on trying to understand all of the details. We'll bring you more details as we find them. In the meantime, it does seem like they have stalled the subways in that region, and definitely trying to get a handle of what's going on. Right now, in the markets, what you are seeing is a rally that has regained some steam. The NASDAQ up 1.8%, and you see the S&P up 1.2%.
Let's
following
push
some
back.
declines
Again, you're
overnight,
looking for that
in
double top
Asia
look.
and in Europe. And meanwhile, in the bond market, you're seeing yields lower as
The
core
open was
CPI
100%
came in
a
less
sell.
than expected, although really interesting to me to see that a lot of that had to do with car prices, not necessarily other aspects of core inflation. This was Countdown to the Open from New York. This is Bloomberg.
$500 was a sell. It was 30 was a sell and then buy. Quick. Wait. Countdown now. Final move of the day. It's been a great day. Need some food, need a beer. That's 50 trades. Wow. That's double what I usually do. It wasn't intentional, like I say.
Companies now, they're getting hundreds, maybe even thousands of applications. So software has come in to automate the process.
You want to write your resume for robots, not for humans. The only job your resume has is to be comprehensible to the software that is reading it, because that software or robot is going to decide whether or not a human ever gets their eyes on it.
These things are programmed by a certain segment of the population.
40 seconds, here we go.
Or not be fully aware.
Concerns about how this technology could exacerbate discrimination. For the FTC, I think foremost, the FTC needs to be making sure that we're fully understanding this technology.
We don't trust companies to self-regulate when it comes to
Watch
pollution.
to see
We
if
don't
there's
trust
a
them to
move or
self-regulate
not.
when it comes to workplace.
20 seconds.
Why on earth would we
Remember,
trust
the
them to
higher the
self-regulate
better.
AI?
Predicted to be 40 on my 10 seconds. Good luck if you are going to trade it. Just be very careful, of course. Wait for the move. Here we go. Let's have a look.
In everyday English in the command line. Compare financials. Find people. Analyze markets. Answer phrases or ask questions. What do you want to know today? Ask a question or visit SearchGo to find answers now.
No result yet. No move. 7. It's delayed you. Tentative. You look. Well, yeah. By 65. So no result yet. Fresh. B. Anything. That is this a delayed result.
More winning caps than they planned. The resulting chaos caused riots, civil unrest, and even deaths. Reporting this story took over a year, and it resulted in me flying to Manila in the Philippines to meet unlucky winners and to find out exactly what happened back then in the 1990s. My name is Jeff Maish. I'm a journalist based in Los Angeles. I wrote the story for Bloomberg Business Week about Pepsi's Number Fever campaign. The Philippines is a really interesting country. It's made up of thousands of islands. And it's also a country that's very heavily influenced by America. American culture is everywhere you look in the Philippines. They're obsessed with Frank Sinatra music, for example. They love all things America, and that extends to their
Still no result.
Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola. In the 1990s, it was everywhere. Pepsi and Coca-Cola were embroiled in what is now known as the Cola Wars. It was a fierce battle for market dominance. Number Fever was already a really popular promotion. It had been rolled out in America with great success. And so Pepsi decided to roll it out internationally, particularly in Asia.
62, so it could be a sell.
Problems, they thought it could finally help them beat their biggest competitor.
Look for the winning number in 5 times sourced every day, also on TV, radio, newspapers. You could be a millionaire.
$1 million pesos or $68,000 doesn't sound like a lot now, but in 1992,
100.
that was a phenomenal.
Back. Naz. Going for that double top. Instead. A pullback. 500. Same look. Doing. Head.
Number Fever caught fire in the Philippines. Kids were
30 as well.
money to buy a bottle of Pepsi.
Almost kind of stretched out to the top. Impact. And still no result. Oh well. We will wait. Post it in the group. Like I said, I wasn't going to trade it anyway, so as I will announce it in the group. Thanks for joining me. Team. Oh, here we go. Here we go. We're out. It's 45.5, so better than expected. Is that going to be? Oh. Yeah, I'm not entering a trade, but you can see get a result better than expected.
There were signs that there were going to be problems with number fever very early. Pepsi had rolled out the competition.
Still under 50 though.
And a garbled fax had caused some kind of problem with the number. They'd announced the wrong one in Chile, causing riots. There were signs that there could be big problems ahead.
Yeah, so you just got to wait for the move. Wait for the move. Wait for it to come.
So in 1992, Pepsi decided to extend the campaign in the
It's been a successful stream, like I say. We're up 30% for the day, thanks to the London session and New York and trading the inflation. And basically just trade safe, keep an eye on the world news, and watch out for the next live stream.
just floating around the Philippines. Hundreds of thousands of people all across the Philippines, thousands of islands.
Hopefully that'll be tomorrow. I'll be back and we'll do another.
Some people had 10 lucky 349 bottles.
So yeah, so like I say, everybody, thanks for joining me. Enjoyed the true scalping. Give us a like, share, tell everyone about it. This is how you can earn tips in a short space of time, about the least amount of hassle, hopefully, on the system. Like I say, go to the website www.mohawkforex.com if you want all the information on how to join and gain access to myself, the team, and the X trading system that you see on the chart that's unique to. Until the next live stream, well done everybody. Thank you for sticking with us, and I'll see you on the next live. Take care all.